And Tim, special guest in the studio this morning. Our great pleasure to have Ross Lyon with us. Good morning to you, Ross.
Good morning, Paul.
Ross, I want to actually start talking to you about football rather than all the gruesome stuff that you've been through, but let's get the ugly stuff out of the way first. You've been here for a while this week. Do you get the feeling that you've got some bridges to mend with the Fremantle faithful?
Certainly nothing that's apparent to me. Look, I understand the situation and I'm really keen to move forward. I mean, what's happened, the past is done. It's about controlling the future. I'm really excited to be the Fremantle coach from here. And linking to your question, I really want to be a part of writing our own story and our own history from here. We've got an opportunity in front of us to work really hard and try and win a lot of games of football and be successful. So that's the real focus. And certainly, you respect the emotion and the concern for everyone involved. But from here, it's about the future for me and trying to earn respect at the Fremantle Football Club.
So will winning games heal all wounds?
Look, I don't think it's about specific about healing wounds, but what it is, I mean, it's about working hard, rolling up your sleeves, helping improve the systems, and the desire to improve at the Fremantle Football Club, and ultimately it's a results-orientated business, and I'll be judged on my actions as the whole team and the whole club will. We're a serious football club, and we're about improvement, and that's the aim.
Do you reckon Freo's underperformed since it started?
Certainly it's not a view that I've had. And people have asked me this morning about the culture of the club, and to come in from the outside, I think it'd be remiss of me to make grand sweeping statements about the past. All I am is about controlling the future and as I said, writing that story and the aim to be successful. But I know what gives you the best opportunity to be successful, and that is to work incredibly hard every moment of the day, and you're either getting closer to what you want to be or further away through your actions and your choices. So that's a simple philosophy that I'm going to really adhere to.
Ross, do you, read the papers, watch the TV and listen to radio? And if you do you care what people say about you?
Certainly over the last week, I haven't seen the pill on the front page of the papers. So, but not to be flippant, the industry I'm in is AFL football, and certainly it's heavily reported. And I feel there's a responsibility that I keep up with what's in the papers in respect to the club I'm at, which is Fremantle, and certainly the wider issues in the AFL community, because at any given time I can be asked about those, and I need to have an awareness of what's occurring and an understanding of the marketplace, really. So having a considered opinion where it's appropriate. Certainly, there's going to be varied opinions on everyone in the business, and it's opinion business. But what I focus on is conducting and working myself in a manner that I feel is the right way, and then from there people can make their own assertions and opinions, and that's probably where it sits.
One of our leading football writers, one of the nation's leading football writers, went on 3AW within minutes of you being signed up and said you'd been signed up on a 5-year deal for $1.5 million a year. How did that make you feel?
Geez, I hope the 1.5 starts jumping in. I'll be pretty excited. But clearly,
got regurgitated on this radio program within an hour.
Yeah, without going into detail, the term's inaccurate. It's a 4-year detail, so that's. But in relation to the terms, I don't. It's nowhere near those figures, and it's certainly a part of the decision. And there was a whole bunch of reasons that I find myself at the Fremantle Football Club, but I'm not really focused on terms and specific monetary entitlements and all those things, and coaching processes and what it is. It's about the future, and it's about, I haven't got the luxury of looking back, so I'm really focused on the job at hand and earning respect.
Spotlight is enormous on your football club and West Coast in a two-team town. It is a footy state. I know you've done Brisbane and you've done Sydney in various forms as a player and an assistant coach. Are you aware of the hostility that two-team town is about and the focus? And are you ready? Because I don't know. Are you media savvy? Are you happy with the media? Are you happy to, chew the fat with the media? And we all like to embrace, our coaches, as was the indication last week when Mark Harvey was dismissed. Are you ready for the storm?
Well, I'm starting to get a feel for the fishbowl, and as I've said before, until you feel something and experience, it's hard to make a comment. But everyone keeps mentioning it, so it must be there.
It's there.
It's there, all right. And look, there's fishbowls. Clearly, Melbourne. I mean, Perth and Adelaide and Melbourne are the epicentres of the AFL national competition, and then there's some certainly new frontiers in Sydney's been 20 years, but still relatively new, and Brisbane, and the intensity for those football clubs and coaches is nowhere the level of what it is in Perth and Adelaide and Melbourne. So certainly I think Melbourne's, and I was formerly at a big club, and we were on the radar for, almost achieving the ultimate, and in big games there's certainly some off-field issues, so I have a strong understanding, and I'm on record. My first year I come in as a young coach and a club, that had played prelim and finals, and I was a young new coach, so it was a unique circumstance, and there was an enormous amount of attention and a lot of pressure, and early I didn't get the media right, and I was inexperienced, but certainly, and people were controlling my appearances, but at the end of the day I said any request from me is to come to me, and no one's to make the decision for me, and from that point on I felt I never looked back in the media, and we've had people come in and film film inside the football club I was involved with, and got great working relationships with 7 and 10, game day, pre-game, half-time. So I certainly embrace the media. I understand it's a valuable commodity for growing your club, and certainly, it's an integral part of my life as an AFL coach, and I feel that I'm really comfortable with the media. I engage it, and certainly I always prepare for it, because you've got to be respectful of people on the other end of the microphone, and they're not mugs. They're coming in to do their job, and and we really both parties are dependent on each other, so we're all trying to do our jobs and fulfil our commitments, and that's the way I view it.
Can we switch the focus to some of the on-field issues confronting Fremantle? Can you this morning solve one of the conundrums about the Fremantle Football Club? Is Matthew Pavlich a midfielder or a key forward?
Well, he's both. He can do both, and you'd love to have two of him. But
well, that's what the last couple of coaches have thought as well.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's made anyone very happy.
Yeah, okay. So look, I always plan heavily for Matthew. He's a 100-kilo man. He's now 29. We really need the young Tyro stepping up and grabbing hold of the midfield, which there's some really good signs with that, clearly, with Hill, Fife, and then there's Morabito. Certainly inject Ballantyne at 24 through there, and Ibbotson can really grow. And then you're looking at, the younger, second-year players with Pitt. So in a perfect world, you play him, in my view, more of a power forward, because you need them, as long as the midfield can give supply. And I think it's a little bit of, because it can be tough being forward. If he's getting squashed or no supply, then you're flicking through the midfield. But certainly, there's no doubt he was in the midfield more this year because of injuries to Mundies and those types.
Do head coaches have to take responsibility for the number of injuries you're carrying in your list?
Oh, look, that's an interesting question, and I think to apportion blame, at the end of the day, there's Chris Bond, the head of football, and I report to him. But in relation to, it's a team effort. But at the end of the day, the senior coach takes responsibility, ultimately for the performance, and what underlies that is player availability. So it's about having a great working relationship with your doctors, physios, and conditioners to come up with a program that ensures as best you can player availability. So you're a significant part of that. And what you've got to be across, if it's not going down the way you want it to be, is making sure that everyone's drilling in to, if there are things we control, that we're not identifying them and fixing the problem.
The football club has changed the colours in more recent times. They've now changed the coach.
From what to what?
Well, they've got rid of the green and the red and all that. It's now the anchor. It's now just basically the purple and white.
Yeah, I really like it.
Do you like it? Yeah. Okay. Now, and obviously you like the coach choice.
Yeah, it's yet to be proven.
Okay.
But yeah, he's got an opportunity, that fella.
The song. They want it. There's now the fans' biggest thing. Now you reckon you're big time, right? And everyone talks about you and Mark Harvey and all what's happened. It's the song that is the number one clutch issue amongst the fans. Do you like the song? Have you ever sung the song? Do you know anyone that does like the song? Have you adopted the song in the week that you've been the Fremantle coach?
The song's a current recurring question here in theme, and I think you've probably embellished a little bit that the song's the most important thing at the Fremantle Football Club. I would imagine
it's next on the agenda.
On-ground performance and winning's pretty important. You know, I think.
I reckon most of us think the most important thing at the Fremantle Football Club is probably Aaron Sandilands, actually.
Yeah, he's a pretty special player, isn't he? But at the end of the day, it can't be about one player.
How bad is that injury? Have you been able to come to terms with that, his foot injury?
I've been told, I've spoken to Aaron, and he's up and about and ready to go. You know, he's in pretty good nick.
You don't see that as a recurring thing because it recurred this season.
Well, it's pretty
because he was rushed back.
I can only tell you what I've been told and from the horse's mouth. So unless you're aware of any other information than I'm not, I can't answer it any differently than I have.
Big players like Pav and Aaron. I mean, a lot of people look at footy clubs like a window opening and closing, you know, and many people think the window's coming down on Freo now because your superstars are coming towards the end of their career. Do you see it that way?
Well, certainly everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I've never been a big one about windows, theoretical, you know, windows opening and closing. What I know is that the list is a living, breathing entity, and no one's here forever, and strong clubs plan and prepare for the passing of great players and continue to flourish, and that's the sort of club we want to be.
Your three predecessors, Damien Drum, Chris Connolly, Mark Harvey, good people, good men, we all like them. Whether they're an A-grade coach is everyone's subjective view. Are you a good bloke, or do you draw a line in the sand? Well, can good blokes be good coaches? And you come across as pretty hard, pretty focused, pretty aggressive I'm not saying aggressive, I don't know you personally, but aggressive in your style, and we only see certain parts of you in the coach's box or down at the ground. But are you a very aggressive, do you have to be aggressive to be an A-grader?
So where'd the good bloke disappear?
Oh, you're sort of probably a good bloke. We've got to get to know you first.
Yeah.
Do you draw a line in between a good bloke and being
I think
hard?
everyone does it differently. You know, there's no doubt about that. And league, Rod Butter said to me, league coaching takes men to places they should never go. So it was one of the great quotes, and I always remembered. And I thought, gee whiz! And then after you've been in it a while, you start to understand the challenges. You know, but look. You got to take a risk to be successful, and you know if you want to be normal, that's great. And the suburbs are full with normal people that are happy and content. But at the end of the day, elite sport is about an abnormal environment and abnormal pressures, and you've got to deal with those, and you've got to forge through it to give you a chance of being successful. So I'm prepared to take that risk, and the players are, and everyone involved in Fremantle understands that elite sport and elite performance isn't a normal environment, and that's what separates the chaff from the wheat. And a lot of goes that with is you've got to drive people, you've got to drive yourself, but at all times you're trying to keep the human side and the balance. And you don't always get that right, and sometimes there's some damage along the way. But good clubs try and keep that balance, but understand the pressures.
Ross, can I finish off? I asked you about the older players. Can I finish off by just talking about your younger brigade? And one player in particular, you've got some real stars coming through, the Nathan Fyfes, those sort of guys. Fremantle supporters were really disappointed with the season that Stephen Hill had. I mean, Stephen Hill, most Fremantle supporters would think that Stephen Hill is they thought he was going to be developed to be a superstar of the league. He had a really disappointing season. Is that the sort of thing that's going to capture your attention?
I think what's really important is clubs that haven't had the ultimate success look for almost a great white hope, and a burden can fall on one player for a long period of time, and I think it's illogical. You need a real spread of performance, and one player isn't going to take us to where we need to be. He's an important
cog.
So
like a Nick Revolt situation.
No, I'm not alluding to Nick. I think history in clubs in Melbourne that I've experienced a little with it, so you can do your own research. But in particular, Stephen Hill, he's exceeded any expectation that anyone could have put on him in his first 3 years of AFL. He's well ahead of the curve, and he's well on track to being the player that Fremantle want him to be. And I know the club we tagged him for the last 2 years. So I think that says something about the player, what he's been delivering, and the player and the concerns, the talent he has, and all we need to do is continue to support Stephen and as a team and as a club, and help grow him to be the player that we all want him to be.
Can the Eagles win tomorrow?
They certainly can win. Their great strengths are their stoppage work and their rucks and the contested ball. And if you're going to be in it against Geelong, you've got to win the stoppages and contested ball, because that's where they really got hold of Hawthorn. I think you should hold high expectations for them. And what it is, they're not going to disappear, because their game plan stands up over a long period. I don't think they're not going to wilt in the heat. It's going to be a fierce battle, and they're going to have to do a lot of things right, but they've got every opportunity.
Great to talk to you, Ross. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.